Hey, what's up, guys? Get another list. Of course, I am rocking one of, well, I used to really love Frieza, but Frieza has probably become one of my more favorite DBZ characters of theirs. But he's one of my favorite characters I got to play in this game for, especially for the first like 3, 4 sets of the game. And I never played him ball version back when like Blue Dominance came out. But this has become one of like my favorite kind of like side projects, side decks, uh, Protective Frieza, and it's by no means original. Everyone was playing it, but damn, do I love this deck. It is. I'm just gonna throw a little bit of music on here, but damn, is it just like it has a really special place to me. And Brandon Biggers, of course, I played against him, and he has his own protective build, and I think this is pretty similar to his. But I kind of took some cues from what he was doing a few months ago when I played him, and this is a list that I've kind of settled on for right now. And I just actually made a one card swap. I had Purunga Ally in here that I ended up dropping, mainly because I was just never really getting into proc. I did like mostly the parenthetical part of his power more than anything, but I was really rarely ever procking the rejuvenation constant. So I swapped him out for a one of positioning drill, just to give me some longevity in the right matchups. But a lot of time I haven't actually been craving this drill. A lot of time I want my deck to thin out so I can draw the balls quicker, but it's just something to have in a little extra padding, I suppose. Maybe I'll change it to something else. We'll see. But anyway, guys, this is my list. Critique it if you will, but of course we got the 7 Dragon Balls. I figured I'd go for Balvec. And we run like 3 one-of drills here. Of course, positioning drill just came in. I figured why not. It's so good, but mental drill is amazing. I do run Guinea Ally as well, but this just between those two just guarantees that I always know my opponent's hand, which is huge with protective, knowing when to use your mastery, knowing what attacks you can take. Revelry drill can make sure I'm protected and I don't ever get bumped off level 2. Again, both my drills are just added padding to what my allies, Ginyu Ally and King Cold Ally can do. Even to an extent, Chilled Ally can protect you from getting de-leveled with a constant that cards can't be attached, so you don't have to worry about Unleashed. We have Stylish Pose at 3, After Image Technique, and Blue Trick. Blue Trick mandatory for any blue ball deck you gotta run at 3. Stylish Pose again, also giving a crit. I run allies, mandatory for any ball deck at 3 in my opinion. And After Image Technique is pretty much a staple for any ball deck again. This card has got some really cool uses, one of which being that when you activate it, if you play it as its power, and you stop an attack with it, you can make it so your next attack is like a hard to stop attack. It can only be stopped by a combat card, which is really great for like setting up supernovas, even to an extent throwing out blue head knock or your level 2. So just things to consider. And the majority of the time in this deck is just kind of playing cards, going into combat, blocking, dropping Dragon Balls, using your crits and your captures wisely to always try to come out ahead, and playing into the matchup, knowing if your opponent has a lot of crits that you got to be careful about how you play the Dragon Balls. Again, Radar, staple, that's I suppose that is our last setup here. Staple for any like ball deck. Oh, excuse me, a little tired, but we have King Cold Ally, Chilled Ally, and Ginyu Ally. Again, Can Knowledge, incredible. King Cold is a name card. He's staple, helps you get some more rejuvenation going. Really, really good. A little chip attack, as well as Chilled helps put some more cards in the deck as well. Helps get some little pile control. It's just a bunch of little like rejuves here and there, with like Chilled, King Cold, and Frieza 2, just putting a couple cards in your deck every turn. Positioning drill ideally will add to that as well. Ideally you'd rather have them going to the bottom so you don't draw into them, but some certain cards maybe you want to like be looping head knocks or betrayals at times, or maybe you want to make sure that you keep getting your blocks. It all just depends. So we get into the name cards slash kind of the events. I guess I'll cover the events first, tie into the name cards. We have Frieza's Arrogance at 2. It's a block, it's Nominee, really good. This is the main one that you're going to like, be rejuvenating first. You're always pretty much going to banish this card for your level 1 power when entering combat. You banish 7 name cards to jump to level 2. Ideally, you're going to be rejuvenating with the level 2 power, so you can start grabbing your allies out of your deck, because when it's rejuvenated during combat, you grab an ally. Super good. Either way, the best part about it is like if you play one, you get to go. What's really cool is you can play one out of your hand as a block and go rejuvenate another one from your banish zone to go get an ally, which is always fun too. Or just getting your name cards back in if you want. So, and you don't always have to, which is nice if you want to build up for Nova. Overwhelming Power is mainly near for named card to banish, but it's also like maybe in a certain matchup, board heavy matchup, you might leave it in your deck, and what you'll do is you know Frieza's level 2 power. His power level is 150 million, so there's only, I think the only person ahead of it, there's no one ahead of it right now, at least as of the recording this video, so not even God Goku's level is this high, so you're pretty much always going to get overwhelming power off for a double board kill. Something to consider. As far as cards that tutor this to your hand, I don't believe there's anything that can tutor this to your hand in this deck. Off the top of my head, no, there isn't. So never gonna get that like tutor to your hand crit, but that's okay. Nova at 3 against Staple. I played a game the other day where I spent the entire game just rejuving all my name cards, and we got to the end of the game, and after like get to the end of the game and a couple shuffles, and I threw 2 Novas in a combat for 21 and 21 apiece. So I won the game with that. I was playing against a red cooler. Unfortunately, I didn't have it recording. I thought I did, which is really a big bummer, but I threw, I did like a 40-some life card combat with Nova at the end of towards the end of the game, and I only had a handful of cards in the pile, so something to consider. Malicious Intent. Again, this is a named card. This card's really cool. It's definitely like a good distraction for your opponent, for sure, because if they don't deal with this, you can start doing like soft Time is Warriors tool locks, and you can it helps you shuffle your deck. Well, sorry, not shuffle your deck, but it helps you kind of pick out cards in your opponent's deck. But it's just kind of like there to be like, okay, if you don't kill this, I'm gonna start getting my board back on top, or I'm gonna loop time. So it's more of a distraction than anything in my mind than an actual win con. But you can always soft lock and start looping like 2 of these as well. So you're always gonna be like looping time until your opponent can break it. It's just something that they have to be wary of. Blue Betrayal. So now we're getting out of I should say we got out of like the name. This is also, I guess, one more setup, but we got out of the name cards. These 9 here are 10 total if you can include King Cold are name cards. Majority of the time you're going to be banishing probably all of them, or rather you're probably going to be banishing these. Well, maybe not the Novas entirely, but you're going to probably banish, I believe, King Cold just so you can level 2 on arrogance to get him, but then you're going to probably go for your, depends on up to you. I usually like to go for my Malicious Intent, my Overwhelming Powers, and a Nova, but it just kind of depends on the matchup. If you really want that overwhelming power, or if you need those blocks really bad, then you just banish this stuff. If you need against an aggro matchup, otherwise board or whatever, you keep this normally. We get into the attacks. Other than Nova, I only run 2. Betrayal and Head Knock. We're just playing them for utility. This deck is not trying to do damage in a combat. It's just trying to balk a combat out, take minimal damage, ball out. So they're just here for utility. I don't run Decap because spacing, and it just wouldn't have been worth it to me to run that card with only like 2 good targets. So we run Security at 2. I'll banish my allies. Ideally, you're going to be banishing King Cold to be getting like one of your drills that you need. It's just kind of there. I could definitely see running a different one, but I figured I'd want to be able to make sure I get like Rivalry Drill against like decks that are running Sinchoke. Rivalry Drill stops Sinchoke in its tracks with a -1/-1 mod, and like Positioning Drill and Mental Drill are always good too. So I usually don't really use this for effect all that often. A lot of time it's just a block, but it's there. I could see you replacing it, but I like it. We get into Blue Narrow Escape. Again, this card is really huge. This lets us kind of top deck more of our energy blocks, like Brace and Ricochet, as well as it lets us top deck Nova, which I did top deck a Nova, and I won because I drew Nova, and then I shuffled it back into I rejuvenated it with like Chilled, and then I Radar to ball 3 and got it again. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, this is just to help you loop your blocks, really, and it's big endurance. You'll see that I run more energy blocks. Well, that's because my attacks are physical combat, so I have a lot of stage gain in the deck, and again, we can use the mastery. We can always pitch one of these cards, these energy blocks, to stop a physical attack. And because my attacks are physical attacks, I'm never going to be able to use the mastery on them. So running a few more energy blocks, being able to turn them into physical blocks on top of the stage gaining from like my level 2 having my allies out to redirect damage to my ball 6 makes physical decks have a hard time. Not to mention if I get malicious intent out, that's 5 stages. That's like taking a whole attack. So we get into the next block, Blue Brace. I run, you know, Stylish Pose and Trick, which are huge. I've thought about adding in Blockade, but there's just no room, and I don't really feel like it's necessary. But Blue Brace is just there to cycle mostly the Stylish Pose, ideally Trick if I need to. So a really good card. Blue Deterrence lowers their anger, and it's good endurance. That's really why it's in here. There's really no other physical block that I need more than this one. So then Ricochet is there for the anti-anger and the endurance. Again, not really sure what I would run over these if I had to pick. I just like them for the endurance, so, and the anger control. Fear at 2, it's just a crit. It's just an extra crit that we might need. It's also a slight hand filter if I need it. I like it at a 2. It sucks in Spanish after use, but that's just how it is, I guess. It works fine. Yeah, that's really, it does this job. It's got some good synergy with positioning drill now that this is in here, so, you know, worst case scenario. And malicious intent as well, top decking cards with these two to get with fear. So Reprimand's at 2. I don't really, it's a little more board hate, which is nice, but it's really mostly if I am against like a matchup where I can't get my ball back, or if I want to like loop a ball 7 or 4 or 2 or whatever, it's there. Or even a ball 3, really. Ball 3 is really important to just dig through the deck quicker, so that's what this is for. It's a good 2 of. 3 Sphere, because events are annoying. Excitement at 2. The mentality of this is just to be able to loop, trick, and stylish pose more. So same with the Blue Brace. This is definitely a card that I could see floating out. It's another reason. This card is another reason why I want to put Blue Blockade in, but again, I just don't have the space. Worst case scenario, it is nice that it's a prevent 3/3. So Times Warriors tool again. We got ways to loop this, like ball 7, after image and reprimand with ball 7, malicious intent to top deck. Positioning drill doesn't work, but malicious intent does top deck it, so, but it's just there to help us out. And Blue Farewell is just like it's just again like I'm not trying to do damage with this deck for the most part, so being able to shuffle one of my allies away and stop all my opponent's attacks, and including mine, is fine. So most of the time you're just going to be entering combat. Well, you don't really enter combat much with this deck, actually, is what you're going to get entered on. Ideally, you're just going to draw like a decent hand. You're going to try to weather the storm, build up a ward, and just keep rejuving. And every once in a while, you will enter to like do some crits and stuff. Keep your opponent's anger down, whatever. But for the most part, your board count looks pretty high, and kind of is, but it's not as generally not too bad. Once you kind of you stabilize relatively quickly with Frieza, which is nice. You're usually able to draw into your deads pretty quick after you level to 2. So, and then after that point, you're just rejuvenating the name cards. Ideally, you're just going to keep putting Arrogance back in and seeing those, ideally. Malicious Intent is there. So Supernova alone is a backup win condition if the balls don't go through. And you have Survival. You do rejuvenate a couple cards here and there between Chilled, King Cold, and Frieza. So it's a fun little deck. I've been enjoying it. I had a really fun game against a Red Cooler deck on Octagon the other day, so that was pretty fun. I have had a few other games here and there with it. I haven't played a ton with it the last like month or two, but I have a handful of games recently with it that have been pretty fun. So anyway, maybe you have a couple suggestions or thoughts that you would maybe change it. I think this is a good starting list at the very least for anyone who is looking at this deck. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Take it easy. Peace.